Treasury has published new tax bills for comment. They're going to be introduced in Parliament later this year. Proposals have been made relating to the taxation of retirement funds on immigration. So if you're thinking of retiring and you want your money, but you're thinking about leaving South Africa, you might want to pay attention. What about the extension of leadership in tax and also urban development zones? Well, to give us a breakdown of what that all means for you and I as far as these tax bills are concerned, I'm joined by Technical Head at Tax Consulting South Africa, Jean de Toit. Jean, good morning to you. Good to have you on eNCA. I think what is perhaps most interesting for our viewers this morning, and I know there's a lot to go through, but could we just unpack, if you don't mind, this particular bill around the retirement funds on immigration? What exactly are we looking at here?
Yeah, I think out of all the proposals that were raised, I think this is probably the most interesting one. Essentially what it says is that when you cut your ties with South Africa and you cease your South African tax residency, you will be deemed to have withdrawn from your retirement fund on that day or the day before, which triggers a taxing event. And it means that when you actually receive the money in future, that you'll have to pay that tax liability. And this is quite a big change because before this proposal, or as it currently stands, it is quite possible that if you withdraw your retirement interest after you have immigrated and left the country, that it would have been tax-free, especially if you became resident of a country with which South Africa has concluded a double tax treaty, in which case it would have been likely that the taxing right would have been granted to that country to the exclusion of South Africa. So this is quite a big change.
So what I'm hearing out of this, and someone who doesn't follow tax law that closely, before you used to be able to at least get your money out of the country, you've given up your citizenship, all the very best, good luck and thanks for all the fish. Whereas now if you want to immigrate, it seems that Uncle SARS is still going to have a piece of your pie. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct. So in some cases, it wouldn't have really made a difference, especially for those who decided to withdraw their retirement interest when they actually left the country. But for some people, what they would have done is they would have ceased residency and they would have only withdrawn their retirement interest upon maturity date. For example, if they actually retire or reach the age of 55. And in that case, if you've left the country and it's years on, it's quite likely that you would not have been taxed in South Africa on those monies.
Okay.
But this proposal effectively creates a fiction where you'll be taxed on your retirement interest before you leave. And they've structured it that way to effectively get around the double tax treaties that would have limited South Africa's right to tax those amounts.
It's a very important discussion to have, Jean. I'm sure you know as well that there's so many people wanting to leave South Africa and immigrate, especially perhaps the older population, want to immigrate to, some are calling it greener pastures, with their retirement money. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. What about this urban development zones? Every time I see the word urban development and tax and treasury, I start thinking about small to medium-sized businesses, opening up of new business buildings in urban development zones. What is happening with this tax bill for urban development zones? What's happening there?
Yeah, so they've decided to expand this initiative effectively, which is a good thing. But as part of the tax bills, it seems that government is sort of giving and taking away, especially on the corporate tax side of things, because they've also, at the same time where this initiative is aimed at supporting small to medium enterprises, they've also decided to limit the claiming of assessed losses for businesses, which is very important for startup companies. And they say that part of this whole thing is to create room to lower the corporate tax rate. But it looks like government is really giving on the one hand and taking on the other. So it's not really sure where they're going with this.
Yeah, it's almost a case of giving you a Christmas present, but they're making you pay for the wrapping. It's a little bit mean as well. So I'm not too sure. I read this as well before having a chance to speak to you, and I wasn't too sure what it meant. Can you help me understand what it means, a tax bill for the extension of leadership? What is that? This seems to be hidden somewhere in the text. Have I misread that, or is that a thing?
I must be honest, I'm actually not sure either what that means.
Okay.
That's something that I've read.
Okay, so let's talk about these tax bills for comment that's still got to come out. When do you expect all of this to kick in? Because we know right now it's a bill that's got to then get passed in Parliament. What's the timeline if we go back to the retirement funds as well? People watching you and I speak now, final question to you. They want to quickly get as much out of their retirement as they can before these bills become law. What's our timeline? What's your understanding?
Well, the date for public comment closes on the 28th of August, and I know that the expat petition group will be making a submission, and they'll be assisted by our firm in doing so. But essentially, if this proposal goes through after the whole parliamentary process, then it will be effective from the 1st of March 2022. So if you manage to get your retirement funds out before then, you may be able to escape this new amendment.
I can see a bunch of people who are close to retirement calling up their grandkids to help them with the Google and the SARS.co.za to help them with this. Jean, thank you very much for your time in helping us unpack that as well. So especially if you're close to retirement age, you have retirement funds, you're thinking about immigrating on that. This is how these tax laws get so complicated. But Jean de Toit from Tax Consulting SA breaking it down very nicely. Retirement funds on immigration. If you're leaving the country and you want to take your retirement fund with you, it seems you have until about March 2022 to figure out how you do that without the new regulations from SARS coming in and affecting you. So good advice. Good advice.
Because SARS is not playing games. I could see literally they are just making sure they're putting South Africans in the straight and narrow here to, of course, honor their taxes. But let's move to this.